Hi guys, I'm Madeline Harvey. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We're going to get into it deep with voice types, vocal classifications. What are they? What sort of things are they informed by? And why do they matter? Why must you know and completely embody your voice type to be an amazing singer? So if you like today's video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up or click that subscribe button below. I would love to see you here more often. The video that you're about to see was taken as a clip from a live lesson that was shot earlier today. If you want to watch the entire live, and it's like a full-length voice lesson, then I encourage you to click that join button below and become a member of this channel. As a member, you'll have exclusive access to all of our lives that we do every Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So again, just click that join button. It's only $4.99 a month, and your contribution helps to support our channel. That way we can continue to deliver awesome content for you. You ready to get started? Here we go. Hi everyone! Happy Monday. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and are enjoying the start of your week. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about how to actually find your voice type and why exactly it matters. This is kind of a hot topic for a lot of people. It tends to stir up a lot of confusion and also a lot of frustration and resistance within a lot of people because simply there is just a lot of confusion about it. But we want to jump into it because your voice type has a lot of biological factors to it. And once you understand those biological factors, you can get a handle on your voice and your voice starts to feel really, really balanced. So our objective by the end of today's live is that you have a thorough understanding of your own voice type. You've gotten to know your voice a little bit more and you're feeling more at home with your voice. That way you know what to expect from your voice in your vocal development. But I just want to say, and please forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, Kajol, hello friend. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for being a member. If you are new and you're joining in, we do these lives every Monday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's Nashville, Tennessee time. So I'm really glad that you can join us from where you're joining us from. And also as we come into this lesson in particular, and we're learning a lot about our voice types and we're playing with our sound. If you want to learn a little bit more, I encourage you to visit me on Skillshare. There is an entire module called Free Your Voice, where what we're going to talk about today starts to really feel grounded and embodied. So if you want to continue that vocal development, check out those modules on Skillshare. It's called Free Your Voice. Very good. Very good. Okay, so what? Voice type. Why does it matter? Well, your voice, you are a wind acoustic instrument. I say that a lot, and I mean that because right away it puts us into kind of what we can expect from our voice. What's the experience of our voice like? We have to deal with certain biological elements, such as the shape of our skull. Now, when I say that, I'm being very, very general. So let me be a little bit more specific. The actual shape of your vocal tract, the width, the length, the exact shape that the voice, the sound, will take as it goes from your throat and your larynx through your face. That's called the vocal tract. Now, if you've got particular shapes in your vocal tract, you're going to notice a particular type of sound. Maybe it's easier for you to sing lower or mid-range or higher, and that's definitely being influenced by your vocal tract. There are a lot more physiological elements to it too. The other is the actual width and length of your larynx. So how big or small your larynx is. And that one I like to think of as almost like a straw or like a bell. Oh, teeter-totter, either or. So if you've got a big straw, you can push a lot more volume of air through, right? But where you're limited is you can't really build the same amount of pressure that a smaller straw can have. So if you're a soprano, it's probably because your larynx is a little bit more narrow, allowing you to really build a higher degree of air pressure as your air moves through your lungs, through that larynx, and again through your vocal tract. But there are a mixture of elements that are there too. Another physiological thing that really determines your voice type is the actual structure and thickness of your vocal cords. So how thin or thick your vocal cords are. Now look here, look how awesome this is. Each one can vary, right? So let's say you have thinner vocal cords, which on its face would say you're a soprano. But let's mix that up with like a wider, longer larynx and some wider vocal tract space. So it really starts to blend what your voice type can be. Now, the whole point of today's video is for you to get a sense of balance. Physically, what, like the sensation of your singing, where does your voice feel the most balanced, the most embodied? You want to pay special attention to where you're noticing that's happening, because that's telling you what your voice type is. Okay, so a question that I get a lot is voice type the same as range? Yes, but also no. Matter of fact, lots of singers can sing very low and very high. Maybe you've paid attention to one of your favorite artists and maybe they have like a super duper duper high note that they sing. Maybe it's up here like E6. That's a really, really high note. But maybe they've only recorded that note once or twice. Maybe they don't sing there all the time. So just because we're hanging out with E6 and that tells us, that's a soprano note, but you're only noticing it that they're singing it once or twice over the course of their music total, then it wouldn't necessarily let you know that they're a soprano. I know that this is really confusing. Our objective today is to sift through that salt and the sugar to find what makes sense to us. So voice type is not necessarily the same as range. They're informed by each other, but if you're like an alto as a female, but you can sing high, it doesn't necessarily make you a soprano. Okay, so I know that I've already confused you, so let's get into this. What are the 6 voice types? Have a little picture here. If you're proficient on the piano, I wanted to show you where on the piano the voice types are. So for bass, we've got C2 to A4. So that's right here. That's very low. Blessed be the basses, because they tend to know exactly what their voice types are, right? They're like the single voice type that doesn't have to wonder about it. It's so obvious. So C2 to, what do we say, F4. So that's about right there. So that's a big range, right? If we move up to baritones, that's E2. Now that's just a little scooch. So we've got E2 to A4. Now I'm just gonna scooch. You see how close they are? How much overlap they have? Yeah. So don't try to put yourself strictly in a voice type box. I want you to consider all the factors that can inform voice types. Moving on to tenor, we're looking at, what do we say? G. So we're scooching on up. G2 to C5. Pretty. Very, very pretty. And that's, what would we say? About 2.5-ish octaves. 2.5 octaves. That sounds about right. So for ladies, alto, C3. Now I'm an alto. Surprise, surprise. But I'm an alto, and I've never really been able to sing that C3. So for example, like if you don't fit into it perfectly, don't fault yourself. But my voice, being an alto, goes from, we'll say D, because that's where it really clicks in. So, but for sake of the diagram, I'll say C to G5. So, oh, sorry, right there. That's a G4, silly. So, kind of jumped up a little bit. And if I'm moving through this area, I'll notice that, yeah, that's where that's pretty indicative of my range. Although I can sing pretty high. My highest usable note is usually F sharp 6 on a good day. But I don't sing up there too often. And I'll get into that in just a second. Mezzo-soprano, we have E, E3 to A5. Right? And soprano, G3 to E6. Okay, so that gives you an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the ranges, but I really want to let you know. Oh, husband's bringing in a tea. Thank you, sweets. And a sparkle cup. Gotta have my sparkle cup. Okay, so I just want to really reinforce that voice type and range are connected, but they're not the same thing. Okay, and if anyone has a question, please, 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 please type in those questions. I will feed off of your questions, and it really helps to determine the direction that this live goes. So we've already determined that voice type and range are not the same thing. Then why is range even included in voice type? Well, I'll answer that in just a second, because there are 3 things that I want to get to. The first thing that I want you to pay attention to, because we did say at the top of the live that there are physiological factors that determine your voice type. The first thing I want you to pay attention to is your speaking voice. Why? Why do we need to pay attention to our speaking voice? Because that lets your speaking voice informs your singing voice more than any other aspect. More than any other aspect. Now, we have to be a little careful with speaking voice because our environment also encourages our speaking voice. For example, if you're a guy and you're working in construction and maybe you live in somewhere like New York or Massachusetts and you've got that regionalism, you're probably going to feel how you're sometimes pushing the sound down into the throat and into the chest to achieve more of that machismo effect, simply because you're surrounded, your environment is like big tough guys. I've seen it all over the place. And vice versa, if you're a woman and you teach, let's say, preschoolers or kindergartners, you may feel your voice lilting up just because you're talking to small children, so you want to use a friendly, soothing voice, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your voice is right up in soprano land. It just means that you are adjusting your speaking voice based off of who you're talking to. So keep that in mind. A good way that I want you to practice your speaking voice so that it's just you and you is to read aloud for about 3 to 5 minutes a day. And what you want to pay attention to is, does your speaking voice feel balanced? That's the whole point of today's video. That's the whole point as to why we would want to understand our voice type. When I speak, does that actually feel balanced? And right around 3 minutes to 5 minutes, if you're reading a book, that will let you know if you start to feel like, ooh, my throat's hurting a little bit, or I'm really feeling it's uneven as it moves somewhere, or I'm really feeling that I have to concentrate on placing my speaking voice when I speak. Having to get that involved kind of lets you know that you're outside of your voice type, okay? So if you ever have to worry about, okay, I'm feeling fatigued, vocal fatigue, you're outside of your voice type. If you feel that you have to place your voice, whether it's speaking or singing, you're outside of your voice type, okay? Those are big telltales that you have to actually get involved to help your voice find some sense of balance. And if you're in your voice type, you're already balanced. Matter of fact, you're in the maximum place of balance. So if you are speaking and you are feeling like, oh, my throat hurts a little bit, try speaking a little lighter. That will let you know that you might be augmenting or adjusting your voice based off of your environment, and your actual voice type sits a little differently, okay? And vice versa. If you feel that as I'm sitting up here, it doesn't actually feel natural, it doesn't actually feel embodied, it feels like I'm placing it, then I would have to lower it. So experiment a little bit with that. You want to get to a point where as you're speaking, it feels completely balanced, okay? So number 2, this is the reason why we're here today. This one right here. And we're going to come back to the piano for this one right here, the tessitura. Tessitura. It's just a beautiful word, isn't it? Or like prima voce. It just means the sweet spot. So when we looked at the graphic earlier and we kind of talked a little bit about where the voice types range may be, we were hinting at the tessitura, but we're going to test it here in a second. The tessitura, the sweet spot, is where in your voice do you get the maximum amount of vibration, but the least amount of effort. I'll say that one more time. Where in your range do you get the maximum amount of vibration, but the least amount of effort? So we're going to test this now. I'm going to start C5. Now I'm just going to sort of go down a little bit. And if you're a female, yeah, jump in, C5. But we're just going to kind of walk this down, and we're going to walk it all the way downtown. Probably to about C3. We might go, yeah, let's go G2. So, because again, basses generally know their basses. So we're going to walk it down, walk it down, walk it down. And I want you to drop out the minute that you have to get involved. Because if you've got to get involved, what does that mean? You're outside of your voice type. You are outside of your voice type. Voice type is maximum amount of vibration, least amount of effort. So we're going to take this really, really slow. And like this might be, like I'm not really laboring too much about that just yet. But I will notice when it really starts to feel real good. And I want to pay attention, where does that happen? Now, you don't have to know music to understand like where in your range it feels really good. Just take a physical snapshot of the sensation of what about it changed that felt so good, okay? So I'm going to start this right here, and I'm going to work it down. If it's too high, join in when it's more comfortable, okay? Here we go. On a ha. Don't want to give too much influence to that vocal tract. Here we go. Feels really good. Let's see. I'll keep going. Good. Kind of get a sense of where it really started to feel really good. For me, my voice really came alive right at that G. Right at that G right there. That's G4. And it just felt really, really, really nice all the way to about that D. Now, here's what I want you to do to find your tessitura. You want to pay attention to where it felt like you had to start to get involved on the low end, okay? So I just dropped out right when I would have had to have started to gotten involved. But let's say D is my lowest comfortable note before I have to do anything about it. All right. Now this is weird, but pay close attention. D lowest note. I'm going to go up 1 whole fifth. So A, that note right there is right in my tessitura. And I know that that's a fact because what I know about my voice is that note A is where I feel the maximum amount of vibration, but the least amount of effort. Okay? So I'm going to do real quick with the voice types. We're going to start at the lowest note. So we'll start at basses. And I want, if we have any basses that are watching today, I'm going to go up a fifth. So come in on that. Let me pull up that graphic one more time so we can kind of take a look. See, we said C2. We're going to go up a fifth. So I'm just going to start you here. Go. Now right there should be the beginning of that sweet spot. Now that doesn't put you in an entirely different vocal range. It just means that really is where it starts to feel embodied, completely balanced. But you can sing down. You can sing down there, right? So that means G2 would be the beginning of your tessitura. Now the tessitura usually lasts about an octave and a half. So if you're a songwriter, you want to pay special attention to where your tessitura is. That's where your voice is completely embodied, completely balanced. And you want to write your songs in that place. This is another reason why I wanted to start talking about voice type and why it matters. So that was for basses. Let's go up to baritones. We said E. I know that was pretty fast, so I'll go a little bit slower. Start again. So that's B right there. Hi, Gwen. So yeah, right on that B is where the beginning of your tessitura is. Okay, moving on to tenors. Well, we say G. Here we go, tenors. There you go, D, D3. Very good. Now this is just the beginning of your tessitura, meaning maximum amount of vibration, least amount of effort. Okay, really want to hammer that in. Get that in your brain today. Balance, maximum amount of vibration, least amount of effort. Cool, moving on to altos. Here we go. Start right here on the C. G, or if you're like me, A, right there. Because D was my lowest note. So A is going to be my beginning of my tessitura. Good. So moving on to mezzos. That's an E, that is. Very similar to our baritone counterparts. Here we go. Mezzo-sopranos. Very good, very good. Very good. Now sopranos, starting at G. Very nice. Now that's the beginning of the tessitura. A little bit higher. And you see that all the voice types kind of overlap a little bit, which is why I really wanted to bring you into the beginning of the tessitura, but not the entire tessitura, just to give you a place to start from. Okay, I know that this is really confusing, which is why a lot of people just abandon ship when it comes to voice type. They go, I don't know. When I was classified, vocally classified, in the beginning, I was classified as a soprano. And this is where I want to take a minute to say why it's so important to find your voice type. My vocal classification was a soprano, simply because, and only because, during the warm-up while it was being tested, I could sing up to F#6. So I was typed as a soprano, only based off of range. But what I didn't understand in my time as a student was that why, when I continuously sang high like that, my voice felt so tired. I always thought, okay, I must not be doing something right. I must be not like supporting or not placing the voice right, or I'm just doing something wrong. Maybe I just need some more time because my teacher said I was soprano. And it took me a very long time to understand, like, whoa, I'm not, no. Whoa. And as soon as I realized that I was in fact an alto, but okay, maybe a bright alto, my voice just, just immediately enjoyed singing in that place because of the tessitura. I started writing songs in that place. They sounded so much better. By better, I mean they sounded more balanced and embodied, more authentic. I wasn't having to like everything with my voice. I was just relaxing into my voice. So your tessitura is the fifth above your lowest singing note. Okay. I know that that's weird, but pay special attention to that because that will help you in your song choices. Okay. Yeah, JW, I was a lot more relaxed as I started to understand that I was an alto, and I was very, very happy with that prognosis. Okay, so on to the weirdest part.